Hey guys, Mike here. So yeah, that's right. No more Fed rate hikes anymore this year. They're done. According to a bigger YouTube channel called Game of Trades, which I'm actually a fan of, and I watch the videos because they do a lot of research and come up with a lot of data to present their findings. But with this one, I just shook my head. I couldn't get past it. It was like a double take, right? That they're saying the Fed is done tightening already, right? And so it's shocking. And I'll say this, if they're right, call of the century. Call of the century. And, you know, like I said in that video, the stock market will absolutely skyrocket off that because we're not tightening anymore, right? They'll freeze rates, all that good stuff. But, you know, that's why I did a double take when they made it. I watched the video, portions of it twice to make sure I understood what he was saying. And I'm pretty sure you can tell by my tone, I'm 100% disagreeing with what he's saying. And I'll present, you know, obviously his part of it and then my part of it. And you give me your take because that's what this channel's all about. It's just presenting the data. You make up your own mind. But I've talked about this enough to be educated on it and to understand exactly what he might be trying to talk about. But you know, I don't get it. So, you know, just let me know what you think. Remember, this is a channel who gets like, you know, 100,000 views of videos, 200,000 subscribers. So it's a big channel. So a lot of people saw this message and I'm just curious, you know, they'll never see this video, but if they did, I definitely want to get their input because I don't mind being wrong about something. If I'm missing something, then let me know. You know, I don't mind, but you know, I can't imagine what in the world you know they're talking about over there with this. Okay, and so if you get anything out of it, hit the like, subscribe button, notifications all. I appreciate that. And let's get into what this person's saying. There's no face if you've never seen this channel, so it's just a voice. I don't know what the name is or anything else of this person, but you know, you can watch this and see exactly what he's thinking and see if you can pinpoint the issues that I had before I even talk about it.
Central bankers aren't idiots like many people out there seem to think. They're actually very smart individuals, and they know that if a recession is coming, they shouldn't be tightening monetary policy. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. I put vertical lines here on this chart every time that the yield curve gets closer to zero. And I've done this going back to 1989. And let's see what the Federal Reserve has done with their monetary policy. Every time that you have this vertical line, every time that you have the yield curve get closer and closer to zero, let's put up the federal fund rate and you can see every time it's towards the end of a tightening cycle. The Fed has already tightened quite a bit, and then you have a yield curve inversion and they finish their tightening cycle. You had the same thing here in 1994. Federal Reserve tightens, and then yield curve gets close to inverting and they end their tightening cycle. Again here in 1998, as yield curve gets closer to inverting, they actually announced that they're going to lower rates. And again in 1999, it's just before they end their tightening cycle. In 2006, just before they end their tightening cycle. In 2019, just before they end their tightening cycle. Now, why am I so emotional about this? Because I'm seeing a record number of people going online on interviews on podcasts, misleading investors into thinking that this is somehow the very beginning of some major hiking cycle. That's not at all what this is. It might look like it because we're still at zero and we haven't typically had the tightening cycle leading up to this yield curve inversion, but we're getting to the end of the tightening cycle.
And just to go ahead and show you, the inversion has already happened. Last Friday it started between the 2-year and the 10-year. And so I don't know if you were able to spot the issues that I have with it. You know, let me know in the comments if you totally agree. That's fine. And please, you know, let me know why. But you know, here's one thing. I don't know who's he talking about misleading people. I assume, you know, I don't know who he's talking about. Maybe he's got some people in mind. I'm not misleading anybody. I'm just going off what the Fed says. The Fed says 7 rate hikes this year. The Fed says, you know, they're going to roll off the balance sheet at a future meeting this year. And so that's the Fed. The Fed says they're going to do everything they can to fight inflation. So that's the Fed. Okay. I don't know what anybody else is doing, but, you know, that's what I'm doing here. And so, second of all, did you happen to notice every time he talked about an inversion happening, it was at the end of a rate hike cycle, right? Of the tightening. Well, guess what? I just showed you. We just started March. We moved up to 0.25%. So you're telling me we tightened for 2 weeks, 3 weeks max? Then the inversion happens, so we're done. So Jerome Powell is literally going to walk out in May in front of a podium and then go in front of Congress and say, that's it, folks. Freezing rates at 0.25%, not rolling off the balance sheet, going to let inflation just work its way out. That's it. Sorry for the folks, being hurt by higher prices and stuff, but inversions happen. What can we say? That's what we're talking about. Like, that's what's going to happen. Can you imagine that, by the way? Can you imagine him going in front of Congress and saying that during a re-election year for most of those folks? I don't know if you saw the last one. I showed you guys what happened in the last meeting. He went in there and testified. He got tore apart and embarrassed. And so, I don't think that's going to fly. Okay, with politicians have to go back, because remember, he's not even confirmed yet. So with politicians have to go back to their constituents and say, sorry, guys, going to be some pretty high interest rate. We're just not going to do anything. We're just going to let it work its way out the system. That would be shocking. That's why I said, call of the century. This is right. Be the first time in history, right? And I'm going to show you. Look at this right here. As you can see right here, we'll use the Fed's fund rate right here. And you can see, let's go back to the last few times they've done this. That rate hike cycle right there took over a year. Then they scroll and say, okay, we got to freeze it, lower it. Nope. Okay, here's another year of raising rates right there. Okay, you see that? That's another year, right? Took another year. Then when they start to decrease, boom, hit recession, here we go. This one right here started in May 2004, didn't end until July of 2006. 2 years of rate hikes, by the way. Then this last one's 4 years, from 2015 all the way through the beginning of 2019, before they stopped raising rates. And if we just zoom into what we have right now, here's where we're at right now. Look at this. Boom, March, moved up 0.25%. That's it. That's where we're at on this, hiking cycle. And so again, I could totally be wrong. Maybe he goes up. Maybe I'm misconstruing what the man's saying here. Let me give him another shot, right? Because one thing he didn't talk about, we're missing inflation. Didn't talk about inflation. So let me give this person another chance to state their case, because maybe I'm just mishearing them.
Now, the other chart I had didn't have data going back into the 60s. So I'm going to show you on this chart here, because I know I'm going to get a lot of comments saying that the environment now has 8% inflation, and so you can't compare it to anything on this chart. So let's go back to the 1960s, when you had inflation at around 7.5%, right? Inflation rate in 1969 was near 7%, so comparable to the levels we have now. Well, look at this. You had a yield curve inversion in May 1969, and you had a yield curve inversion in May 1973. So let's look at the federal fund rate at these moments in 1969, May 1969, that was the end of the tightening cycle right here. And in July 1973, so a couple months after the yield curve inversion, that was the end of the tightening cycle. They began to lower rates. The point I'm saying is that when you have a yield curve that's getting closer to zero, central banks tend to stop monetary tightening because they do not want to tighten into a recession. And they will apply this concept regardless of whether they've tightened leading up to that moment or not.
That sounds like the same stuff to me, right? And so, the problem also is, I don't know if he just didn't realize that the 2 and 10 year was going to invert so fast, like literally 2 days after that video, or it was going to take months for it to do. One thing he's not even talking about is what some of the Fed officials are bringing up, which is the 3-month 10-year, right? Which is what Kathy was talking about. They're kind of jumping on this bandwagon of saying, oh, it's going the opposite way. It's not even close to inverting, even though you have I think it was the 5 and the 30 already inverting last week as well. The 2 and the 30 are getting close. And, if you look right here, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about when it comes to the 3-month and 10-year versus the 2-year 10-year, okay? And you can see right here, obviously the top one's a 3-month 10-year, the bottom color there is the 2-year 10-year. And you can see, plain as day, the 2-year 10-year invert, going from left to right, every time before the 3-month 10-year. And look, 2-year 10-year inverts, then the 3-month 10-year inverts. Same thing happens here. We keep going over to the right. Same thing happens right here. And we keep going to the right. This one's really close. I mean, honestly, I think the invert is somewhere the same time or something, but it's hard to make out. Then you look at the last time it happened in 2019. I actually had to zoom in on this because it was tough for me to even see what happened. But you can see right here when we zoom in, it's plain as day, the 2-year and 10-year invert way before the 3-month and 10-year. And you can even see there, they're going in opposite directions as the 2-year, 10-year invert, right? And then it takes a massive U-turn, which it does just pretty much every time it inverts. So it'll turn quickly. And then you can see to the right there what I'm talking about. When I say the 3-month, 10-year is going up. It's not even going to invert right now, while the 2-year, 10-year has already inverted. And to throw something else on this, guys, this right here, if you ever wonder why, if you didn't notice there, after the 80s, that we never ever able to raise rates as high as they were the previous rate hike cycle, then if you look, reason why that is, what I did was I added on the national debt. Remember in the 60s, we rated the Social Security Trust Fund. And so look at what happens here. As debt starts to take off in the 80s, start running up the old credit card right there, what's happening to the Fed funds rate? It's slowly but surely coming down every time you try to hike it, right? And then when you see it really take off, what happens? We can't even get above 2.5%, guys. Okay, look at that. Look at this trend line right here. If you like to do stocks and all that stuff, check this out. Perfect trend line all the way down. Every time it hits that line, bam, recession time, and we can't hike it anymore. And there's a big reason for this. And this is kind of a bonus for you guys. It has nothing to do with that video. But the reason I've been on record of saying, my call is, when they're calling for over 3% interest rates next year, we'll never get above 2.5%. And the reason why I call for that is because every percentage you raise rates, it's almost $300 billion in extra interest payments just towards the federal debt. So if we get up to what they're calling 3-4%, that is $1.2 trillion more than we're paying now just in interest payments, guys. Okay, and there's these folks out here that will tell you from some economic research that was done in the 70s, there's a theory that debt and deficits do not matter. And my question to that is, if that is the case, 1, why even pass a budget? 2, why make budget cuts? 3, why are we always cutting education, Social Security, Medicare? Why are we always raising the retirement age, right? Like every 10 years, we got to go up in some kind of age to retirement. If we can just print all the money we want, right? Because we're the world's reserve currency. If that's the case, how come we do that kind of stuff? How come we try to cut the Special Olympics the Special Olympic funding 3 years ago? How come we're constantly doing, as teachers, how come they can't get raises all the time, every year? Good question, right? We keep cutting for a reason, right? Because they see what's happening and our interest payments are doing this, just interest alone, okay? And so that's a little bonus on that. But getting back to this one, let me know in the comments, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, maybe it is going to be just I guess, that'd be 2 months total, even though we didn't do anything in April to, actually tighten anything. But maybe he's going to march out there in May and just say, that's it. We're done. We got the inversions. Forget about it. Maybe that's going to happen. If that is, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what I am missing in this, because I don't get it. And, I've never had a reaction to one of their videos like this before. I like their videos. Whether I disagree or not, or just go, okay, great data. But this one, I don't get it. I'm totally confused on this one. My data shows me something totally different. And so we'll see. Right, and so if you're a member of Game of Trades or you watch their channel a lot, let me know. Maybe you're in one of the private groups and y'all discuss this more. So anyway, hope you got something out of it. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you like to get news briefings every morning, private videos, hit one of the links down in the description right there. Join up for less than what it costs a McDonald's combo. Matter of fact, half what it costs for a McDonald's combo. And then I guess I'll end up seeing you guys. Yeah, it'll be tomorrow. Yeah, I got a video coming out tomorrow for you guys. So have a good one. I'll see you later.